Okay, well, here we are again. I'm Ken Unack.
Mark Armstrong. We're missing one of our partners in crime this week.
Big empty space here.
For Walt.
So today we're going to talk about the key of A. We've been working on things in E, and we're going to move on to A. All we're going to do really is add one new chord, but then we'll talk about why A is a bit different than E. All the keys have characteristic licks that you can hear in them that you hear over and over again. And you don't hear them, say, when you're playing G, but you hear it in A. And we're going to talk about some of that stuff today. So we'll start out, we'll play a little blues here in A. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, we kind of got a little lost there in the end. I went to E. Actually, I thought we were playing in E. I started playing a turnaround with the B.
That's okay.
So, anyway, that's blues in A.
Yep.
One of the nice things about it is you have all three of the bass strings available to play.
Right. So you have.
Go ahead.
Yep. You have the root of the 1 chord, then you have the 4 chord going up, and nicely you have the 5 chord down going low, so you feel it coming back up to the 1 chord and gives a bigger sense of resolution.
Yeah, it does.
Right. Yeah. And so you can even on the most simplistic level play along. So as a beginner's blues, A is one of the best.
It's absolutely, I think so.
Yeah.
But you can get away, if you do that again, let's see if we can do, if I can do 1 chord.
Right.
And never change the voicing.
Oh, okay, sure.
Okay, all right, 3, 4, 1.
2, 3, 4.
So all I did there, Mark was simply playing simple bass line with monotonic. I was doubling it sort of here and there, and playing this G7 chord that everyone learns. But I started up here in the ninth position. It gives you the open A. And the A7 chord. Of course, you have to move it way back here to get the D, but then the E is right here. So this points out something else too. If you are not used to playing with your fingers yet, you can use these 3 chords just this way to start to get syncopation or a pattern we don't really use patterns in the blues. But just use these 3 chords and you can work out a whole blues tune.
Yep.
And if you have a singer or a blues hop player, you don't have to know too much to get going playing the blues. As long as you can keep the beat. That's it, the rhythm. Keep the rhythm going. You can use other chords, this A7 here. You know, we could play the D7 up here. And then, of course, we've got the E7, 3 frets higher. So it's like 1 chord blues, you know, 1 form, 1 chord form blues.
Yep. So one thing as you're talking about chords, one thing that A brings to the party is you get some interesting chord voicings down here, especially off of the A chord, the 1 chord, just because you can play it with 1 finger. And it also superimposes over 2 pentatonics that you can combine and turn into this super kind of scale / chord that you can put a lot of motion with. So you got all of this fun stuff to do, and it's very easy to do because you're just basically holding the chord down with 1 finger, freeing up the other 3 fingers to add all these other notes that, like I said, you can combine these 2 pentatonics. So you can do the major, you can do the minor, and they both combine that, and then just as you were saying, you can start moving that around. So that's one, and then there's another one I want to point out, because you did it, and I just want to point out because this is very common, which is when you're doing the E to the D at the end of the form, very often you do the E with the E bass as a monotonic, but then as you did a few times, you go to this nice low note for the D chord. So you're basically taking the D chord, taking the note from the top, and putting it on the bottom, and what you get is you get down on the bottom when you're, right? And it's a very nice little touch because it fattens and deepens the D chord instead of jumping from the low E up to the thin D string.
Yeah, absolutely, and they do this all the time. They'll walk right up to that. And they'll play pretty much what I'm going to play right now. Among all the players, they'll bend the D, they'll bend the root, and then we're back. Well, let's see. Yeah, back to the A. And right into a turnaround. So what Mark pointed out about this position down here, this is a big A position, you know, as you could see. And one of the things that I think across the board, probably at least a half dozen guys that are from the 20s and 30s will play this arpeggio, and they'll bend that G right there. And they'll use the flat 3 here.
And bend that.
And slide up. Which you don't hear in E.
No.
You just don't hear it. They couple that with and there's other turnarounds are right here too. Like, let's see, this, this one. You have to be careful how you resolve these two. You know, this is.
Yeah, the last chord usually is different than the other, the previous. Like you can get. Then you need to.
Yeah, you need that whole thing on
this.
On
it's going to be a little dark.
So, one thing I didn't play, and Mark didn't play any either, but they will do 6 like this. And they'll also, they like to do this one. Now before we go to the E chord, they'll play the flat 3
Yeah.
and resolve that to the B on the E. Right there, so it'll come down.
Yeah.
And then go. The Robert Johnson style turnaround anyway. So that's some of the things that are unique about A. Let's see, I'm trying to think of one other thing. This voicing here, this C7, that's used a lot in A because if we play the E this way, you've got all the strings.
Well, also in that note too, you get that the barred E shape on the top 4 strings. And then what's nice about having this chord voicing here, one is you're further up the neck, so you get a few more higher notes, but it also superimposes over the blues pentatonic scale. So you can kind of see how that, that little flat 5 thing, you're bending the D, you're bending up to that little flat 5 sound. But then you can use all this knowledge, and this also you can move around. And just give you some...
Yeah, that's really common.
Real common, yes, exactly. So it's just a way to expand up the neck, and the key of the A is really handy for that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So those are some of the things in A. You can move the turnarounds. You should learn to transpose things. We have this common one in E here that we do. And we can do it in A too, right? There it is.
There you go. Yep.
It's the same one.
Yep. Exactly.
So, and you're going to finger it basically the same way.
Yep. Actually, I'm going to give one A trick that I've learned over the years. It's been done in the blues, it's Steely Dan, everything else. Where you take this little minor chord and you move it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think they call them sliding ninths.
Yeah, exactly. I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. But it gives it that little bit of a jazzy edge to it, but it's still very rooted in the blues. Right?
Yeah. And the way to think of that is, as you said, it's a little minor chord. Like I'm going to play.
Yep.
It's a D minor form.
Yep.
But moved up becomes what? Like an F sharp.
F sharp minor.
F
and
sharp
E minor.
And I'm going to slide that down to E minor.
Well, I'll give you one. If you finger this like this, then you can have it so that you can incorporate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's instead of just fingering it like that, so you can add it. So you kind of basically finger the top like that.
But you're adding that
extra.
other note. Yeah.
Yep.
Make it a fuller sound.
Yep.
Awesome.
So let's talk about a little bit. We were doing this a little before, where you were playing some simpler voicings, and I was interacting with you, and then you were playing some more of a fuller arrangement, and I was interacting with you.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that.
Yep.
What we're going to do now is talk about 2 guitars playing together. And I'm going to play very simple voicings. You can't have, it's actually hard for 2 guitarists who maybe haven't had a lot of experience to play together and play the blues together. Because you can't be playing these big old chords.
The cowboy chords, as they're called.
Okay. You can't be, so I play these as second guitar, little 3-note voicings, which basically have the 3rd and the 7th in them, and usually the root. Well, I won't say usually, because I'm going to try to avoid the root. We're going to play an A, but I'm going to play, the A will have the root, but the D will have the 5th in the bass. So, and the E also. So, all right, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that pointed out something else too. This fifth position is another big A position.
Yes, oh yeah.
But the object is, and you might want to talk about some of this, staying out of each other's way.
Right.
That's the whole object.
Well, part of that is one is learning to listen and not, getting stuck in certain things that you have to do. You say, I have to finish this idea because I've practiced this idea. So that's part of learning to improvise, is learning how to loosen up and let go and realize that things might be changing from where you think they're going to go. So a good part about learning to improvise is learning how to leave space. It's not just trying to fill up everything. It's learning to leave space so that the other person can, as in a conversation, respond, listen, reflect, all that kind of stuff. And it's, conversations are very much like improvisations, that if you're a run-on sentence, I'm sure you've had professors that had run-on sentences, and after a while all you hear is blah, 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 blah. And the same thing with music. If someone just keeps playing lots of notes and never breaks, after a while you hear nothing. It's a wall of sound. And if you don't believe me, go back and listen to a lot of the stuff from the 80s. And there's a lot of stuff that these guys had a lot of great chops, but after a while it all started to sound the same because they all kind of played really fast. So that's part of it. The other part is staying out of each other's range. So that you were putting a bass function and some more chordal function. You were kind of taking care of the bottom and more of the middle. So my job at that point is to enhance your harmonies and then also to add melody to what you're doing. Now, if we do something where you're busy or where you're doing melody on top of all of this, then I also have to now start thinking about, all right, how am I integrating with his melody on top of his chords and his bass? So you want to try a little of that? So where you're playing a little busier arrangement.
Okay.
Yep, and then I'll see what I can come up with.
4, 2, 2, 3, and 4, and 3. Okay.
And that's a little more work for me to stay out of your way and not try to muddy up the waters. And then some of it is what was known as aleatoric. It's music of chance.
Music of chance.
Music of chance.
Yeah.
So who knows what's going to happen, but hopefully it sounds somewhat like music.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a lot like playing New Orleans style, where they're having multiple solos all going at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's interesting you said that. I made that observation a while back when I was playing with a ukulele player, and we were sitting there, and we finally realized what we were doing. We were playing. It sounded good, at one. We said, "Wow, that sounds, that's pretty cool. Let's try to keep that." Mm-hmm. And then, what are we really doing? And we realized we're both just soloing New Orleans jazz style, early jazz, like. Or when the Saints go marching in.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We're playing our own thing, but listening to each other and catching all the nuances.
Yep.
So all this is great if you putting a little act together. You got a singer and a blues harp player, a couple guitars or whatever to work this out. That's what makes it you completely different than 99% of the people that are out there just strumming the chords away.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's a lot of work, but you've got to do it. You've got to do it.
Oh, the payoff is big.
Payoff is good.
Yep. So we only have a few minutes
I was looking
left.
at the time there.
So do you want to try it, or do you want to just stay in A and?
Well, let's try going down there.
Okay, we'll try. We're going to try some drop Ds.
Okay.
So my way of doing it, just is,
Yeah,
is
let's
you
talk
know,
about this
you
tuning
talk how
here.
to tune. I mean, I do have a tuner here, and I'm going to double check it with the tuner, but I always try to do things by ear first. And so what I usually do is I just play
Well,
the.
let's tell them what drop D is.
Oh, a drop D is taking the lowest note on the guitar, the E, and dropping it down by a whole step, which is 2 more frets down. And what you're doing then is creating an octave with the open D string. And what this enables you to do is now play the D chord with a lot of bottom. Because the D is actually a problem chord because it's usually playing this as the low note and it doesn't have enough bottom, enough warmth to really support. That's why we were doing the F sharp on the blues in A to make the D sound richer. But now, once we do this, then and then we get, and then you get into the monotonic stuff, and then you got this really nice rich note. The only thing you do lose is you don't have open strings for the 1, 4, and 5 now.
Right.
You just have for the 1 and the 5, which is good, you know. And then it also leads to a lot of this
So,
for the G, where you walk
yeah,
up to.
so where is the G now?
The G now has been shifted up the neck, yeah, so the G is at the 5th fret. Yep. And there is a way to get used to playing the barred chord. So you get used to turning this into this, and that becomes the default kind of chord you move around for drop D. So.
Okay.
Yep.
I tend to stay away from bar chords, only because I don't have in early style, I don't have a lot of use for them. So I'll play my G this way, with just 3 notes, the G, B, and D, which, well, actually, let me start here with this. This gives you this huge sound here, and it can be a problem if you don't watch out. If you get the D ringing too much, they do a lot of open stuff like this. But what this open sound does, or this position here, I like to think of it as being from the open position up to the 5th fret. I think of it as a domain. It's one position. And the reason I do that is there's E here, scale, sol, fa, mi, re, do, ti, la, sol, right here. Even though we don't use the major scale much here, if you've studied at all, you're very used to playing the D scale there.
Right. And it's not much to turn it into.
No, it's not much.
A blues scale.
The blues scale is right.
Right.
And they take advantage of it. Let's try playing a little something in. So this whole little position down here, I tried to think of it as playing not in the 2nd position and not in the 1st position, but just be able to move your fingers freely here. You know, there's arpeggios here.
And you do have this nice D7 chord sitting right in the middle of all this.
Yes. Okay.
Which you can do all pieces of and all that stuff, but that's kind of handy too to have that in there.
Yeah. The other thing I think that's noticeable in drop D is this here. Let's see. We're going to go to the 4 chord, and you'll hear this. And you don't hear that in the other keys. It's characteristic because we're coming up to the third in the bass.
Right.
It's almost like that here, but usually when they come up here, they'll play that F, and that's a characteristic sound. Also, the E, which is the sixth of the chord, gets used more often now than it does in the other keys.
Right.
Because why? It lies right underneath the fingers. And it's the same also with the sixth on the G chord, the B. Here lies under the fingers. So they'll use that much more as on a strong beat than they will in any of the other keys. The same with when you get up here, they'll pull off on that a lot. But they'll hold the B, which you don't hear them holding the F down here in A, the F sharp, which is the sixth, but in B. So it opens up another thing, that this idea of playing, we've got the D going, and since they emphasize that B so much, you can think of this two ways, playing in pentatonic major, or I like to think of it as playing relative minor against the major.
So you're playing B minor?
Yeah, so I'm playing in B minor. See how it changes the sound to more country?
Yeah.
And then if I keep that six when we go to the four chord, we're more country than blues. Put it back to blues, gotta put a blues scale in. So that's another way to think about that in drop G, that B minor is available basically, you know.
Yeah.
And not only is it available, I mean, the other minor keys are available when you're in E, you could play in C sharp minor, for instance. But in G, it's just a characteristic sound that they have.
So we'll see you next time, and the blues.
Okay.